Did you know that there is a very small hidden muscle deep in your calf that most people have never ever heard of? And it turns out to be one of the most useful muscles in your entire body for controlling your blood sugar. So a few years ago, researchers at the University of Houston found that activating this one muscle while you are just sitting down in a chair could cut the spike in blood sugar after a meal by around 52%. I want to be completely crystal clear from the beginning of this video. This is obviously a fascinating study, but it isn't just some magic fix that I'm trying to get you to do instead of everything else I talk about. The real value is the lesson that this research study teaches us, which is just how powerful movement can be for your body. So, in this video, I'm going to explain what this muscle is, why blood sugar spikes are so damaging in the first place, and the clever backdoor that your muscles use to deal with those blood sugar spikes, and then finish with the much bigger takeaway that I think matters even more than the muscle itself. And if you find this video useful, if you find it fascinating like I did when I first read about this study, then please just like the video, give it a hype as well, and subscribe to the channel. I promise you, it means so much, and it makes all the difference for the growth of this channel. Let me start with the problem that we're actually trying to solve here, the point of this video. So when you eat a meal with carbohydrates in it, the sugar floods into your bloodstream, and if it comes in, in too big a quantity and too fast, you get a really sharp spike. And that spike is harmful in two ways. The first one is that sugar in your blood is sticky and it's irritating to the delicate lining of your blood vessels. So every big spike does a little bit of damage, and that compounds over years and decades. The second one is that to clear it, your pancreas has to release a big surge of insulin, which is the hormone that pushes sugar out of the blood and into your cells. The thing is, though, sometimes that surge of insulin overshoots. It drags your blood sugar down lower than when it started, which is this classic afternoon crash that we all feel. The tiredness and the brain fog and the sudden craving for something really sweet. And if you do that a few times a day for years on end, then two things will happen. Your pancreas gets, a bit worn out from pumping out all of that insulin, and your cells then eventually stop responding to it, which is what we call insulin resistance. And that is the road that leads step by step to pre-diabetes and then type 2 diabetes. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because your muscles have a very clever trick. Normally, getting sugar out of your blood and into your cells, it requires insulin, which acts like a key unlocking the door so that sugar molecule can just flow straight in. But when a muscle actually contracts, when you use it, like walking or squats or whatever, it can open up a completely separate door and pull sugar straight out of your bloodstream without needing much insulin at all. So, the point here is that a working muscle can mop up the sugar from your last meal directly, taking the pressure off your pancreas and then flattening that spike. And this, honestly, is one of the most powerful ideas in all of exercise medicine, because it means that movement does far more than just burning calories. It actively helps your body manage its blood sugar in real time. And this brings us on to that little muscle in the calf, this tiny, insignificant muscle that nobody has heard of, which is called your soleus muscle. So the soleus is the deep muscle that keeps you upright whenever you're standing, and it's built very differently from most of your other muscles. And that difference is that your soleus muscle is made almost entirely out of slow, enduring fibers. So it can keep contracting for hours on end without getting tired, which is very different to the other muscles around your body, like your bicep or your quads, where if you were to do bicep curls for hours or squats for hours, well, nobody could they? Because those muscles get tired really quickly. But your soleus muscle in your calf is very different. And rather than relying on its own stored fuel, it prefers to pull glucose and fat straight from your blood. And that makes it almost perfectly designed to keep clearing sugar for a long time while you barely move. And that is exactly what the Houston researchers actually tested. So they had people do a slow, repeated heel raise while seated, keeping the soleus muscle gently working. And they compared it to simply sitting still after a sugary drink. The result was that the post-meal sugar spike dropped by up to 52%. And the amount of insulin needed fell by up to 60%. So one Tiny muscle working away while the person sat in a chair did a huge amount of the heavy lifting that would normally fall to your pancreas by releasing insulin. Now, let me just be really clear here. This was a small study done in a lab using a pure sugar drink rather than a normal mixed meal, and it was designed to understand how the body works, not to prove that just twitching your calves and raising your heels beats going for a walk or going to the gym. So, let me be really, really explicit here. Doing this after your meals is far better than doing nothing, but on its own, it will not undo a diet full of ultra-processed food, and it will not make you fit or healthy by itself. It doesn't mean that, you only need to train your calf muscles, and it certainly, obviously, doesn't reverse diabetes. All it's really showing us is just how powerful movement and muscle can be. But taken for what it is, it's really useful in two ways. The first one is that for somebody who's frail or recovering from an illness like a pneumonia or a fracture somewhere, or they simply cannot move around much, a gentle seated heel raise for a few minutes after your meals is a brilliant option. And it's far better, like I said, than just sitting completely still for the rest of the evening. The second one is, think about the long game here. A modest cut in your sugar spike after one meal. It might not sound like an awful, big deal here, but if you do that after every meal, every day for 10 or 20 or even 40 years, then that cumulative reduction really does add up to real protection for your blood vessels and your pancreas and your long-term risk of lots of different diseases. But for me, really, the biggest lesson in this study isn't your soleus muscle at all. Just stop and think about it for a sec. If isolating one small muscle in your calf while you sit completely still can do this much work, and I get that your soleus muscle is a bit different to your others, but just take this point for a second. If isolating just one muscle is this powerful, just imagine what a 10-minute walk after a meal could do. Because with a walk, you're not just using one muscle, one tiny muscle in one particular part of your body. You are using your calves, your thighs, your glutes, and your core, and swinging your arms all at once. And you're getting a bit out of breath while you do it as well. That is many, many times more muscle pulling sugar out of your blood. But then take it one step further and imagine what it means to be gently active all day long, not just walking after your meals, but being active as often as you can throughout the day in between your meals. And this is the whole point for me. Our bodies are built to use our muscles constantly, not just in one hard burst followed by nothing. And this study is a beautiful illustration of just how powerful even the smallest bit of muscle work can be. It's exactly why, by people who potter about all day, who garden, who do their cooking and their cleaning, and they walk to the shops and they walk to see their friends and family, these people so often stay strong and sharp and live well into their 90s and beyond. But what does this actually look like in practice in our modern world? Well, the simple version is to stop sitting down like a stone the moment you finish eating. If you can, the best option is after your bigger meals, but preferably after every time you eat something. But if a walk isn't possible, then do some seated heel raises like they did in the study by lifting your heels up and down for a few minutes, or a handful of squats, or even just pottering around, anything, doing the washing up, doing the cleaning, anything that stops you being sedentary and static after you eat. Anything that gets your muscles working in that hour after you eat will, I promise you, it will make a massive difference. And this matters more and more as you get older, because from around the age of 30 or 40, we naturally start to lose muscle in a process called sarcopenia. And less muscle means less ability to actually clear sugar from your blood. So the older you get, the more it pays to keep those muscles active and to hold on to as much of them as you can. So you don't need anything fancy to look after your blood sugar. You just need your own muscles and a bit of movement at the right time of the day, or preferably throughout the entire day if you can. If you work in an office, then investing in a rising desk like this, let me just show you. Investing in a rising desk like this means that you can stand up for most of the day, and you can do some heel raises or some squats every 10 or 15 minutes. So why don't you start really small this week by taking a really short walk after your evening meal, or just doing a few minutes of heel raises while the kettle boils, and let that small addition to your routine become a habit. And then once you get used to that, just add a bit more on and a bit more on. Because the real secret that our bodies are trying to tell us is that staying gently active all day, every day, is one of the most powerful things that you can do for a long and healthy life. So I hope you found that video useful. I thought this study was so interesting when I read it. And again, just take a look in the description of this video and you'll see all of the different references, the links for these different studies. And please send it to somebody if you think they will find it useful as well. Have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.